Good evening, everyone. This is the October 16th meeting of the Revere City Council's Zoning Subcommittee. The members of our subcommittee that are present this evening are Councilors Keefe and McKenna. We're also joined by Councilor Arthur Guanasso. I believe the way we'll start this meeting is I'll open it up to Frank Stringy for a little bit of a briefing on this. Then we'll open it up to councilors for questions, and then I know the Revere Beautification Committee is here as well. So any input, questions, or thoughts from the community will also add.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This resulted as due to the Revere Beautification Committee contacting former Councilor Bob Hass and bringing this to light to take a closer look at our billboard ordinances and further restrict and regulate billboards across the city. So the Planning Board at their public hearing heard from the Revere Beautification Committee, and in our recommendation to the City Council, recommended a smaller committee be established consistent of members of the Zoning Subcommittee, myself, a member of the Revere Beautification Committee, representative from the Mayor's Office and the City Solicitor's Office. And we meet from time to time to take a closer look at our existing ordinances and what we can do to tighten them up and make further recommendations to the City Council Zoning Subcommittee, and then present it to the City Council as a whole. So I guess I can kind of give an overview of what we have now on the books for regulating billboards, and they are allowed only by special permit by the City Council, but they are allowed in our GB District, Central Business District, Highway Business District, TED District, Limited Industrial District, and Industrial Park District. So there are a number of districts throughout the city that they are allowed by special permit in the City Council. I think one of our goals is to tighten that up. The GB District, CB District, and a lot of these districts closely abut residential neighborhoods, and those where the impacts are felt. So in addition to that, the regular ordinances of the City of Revere has a sign section that governs billboards, and they're not allowed within 100 feet of a public way, 300 feet of any residential area, and 100 feet from parks or other billboards. So there are regulations now that govern these, but I think what we want to do is take a closer look and kind of tighten them up. And right now there are loopholes, and they are loose. As we've seen in the past, billboards have been allowed in the city in areas that are close to residential areas. So, I mean, that's the goal, and I think through the zoning subcommittee tonight, we can establish a working committee that with a chairperson, and we can have regular meetings until we come out and hammer out a number of recommendations for changes and present those changes to the zoning subcommittee and then to the City Council for public hearings. Okay.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I think that's a great way to start the meeting. I'll start with councilors. Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. This comes at a great time. I've been campaigning on Revere Street and Broadway, and I've had to stare at that ugly billboard that is in deplorable condition right in the heart of our city, where we so hard work to beautify our area. Not only is the structure itself ugly that it needs to be done over, but all the old paint, the old sign is hanging off. And every person standing with me from my committee has made comment on this. And that's a blight on all of us, to allow Clear Channel to leave our billboard so ugly and so unkept right in the heart of our city. We've had all those visitors come to see the Columbus Day Parade who braved the rain. To what? To see that ugly billboard. And so I think your outline, Frank, is perfect. I think the zoning subcommittee, in conjunction with the beautification committee and yourself, would be a good work task force to finally put some ordinances on the books that prohibits billboards in certain areas. And I certainly think that maybe the TED district, but that's just a stretch without even putting any thought into it. I think certainly GB, it's no longer practical. And I think that it's one that has to be reviewed by this board. And when it's offered out to the council of the whole, you can rest assured that I think that they will listen this time. I think that the council gets the message, and I think that they've seen what I've seen and what other people have spoke about, that this is really unsightly in our community. And we did yeoman's work to make Broadway beautiful. I mean, it took a few years. This is like 6, 8 years of planning, and then another 8 years to get it actually completed. And then the Clear Channel's allowed to have that thing hanging over right in the center of it. It's completely unacceptable. So, Madam Chairperson, to membership of the zoning subcommittee, I think this is a step in the right direction. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Keith.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I obviously agree with Arthur Guanasso and Mr. Stringy coming up with some ideas. We've been bouncing around different ideas for a few years, and I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Giampo while Bob Hass was also working with him. So it's long overdue, as everyone probably would understand. The committee, forming an actual committee to do this with people from the beautification committee and the planning board. And it doesn't have to be just councilors. I mean, maybe if there's one council that spearheads it, that would be great. I'm not sure if you planned on doing that, Councilor Janino. But we want to get this ball rolling, because this has been going on far too long. We all understand, and it's something that there's so many great ideas that are out there, but we want to probably see something into an implementation phase sooner rather than later. So I'm all in favor of this side group or a subcommittee working on it with members of our community and members of our mayor's office and city staff to put it together. Certainly Frank and even Ron and the beautification committee probably have better ideas than I do. So I would always lend way towards the experts on that. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I also agree with my councilors on my right. I just feel that billboards are a distraction. We're trying to change the image of our city, and it makes it not good to see all these billboards going up. Could I ask a question to Frank? Frank, how many billboards have been put up in the last, I don't know, say 6 months? Has there been any?
No, not in the past year or so.
Okay.
There are a number of billboards that exist in the city. According to the state advertising board, the city of Revere has the most billboards in any other community in the greater Boston area.
Yeah.
I think it's upwards of like 80 at one time. So a lot of those are pre-existing non-conforming billboards that we can't touch, but we can certainly prevent any proliferation of billboards in the city. And as you mentioned, the safety issues that are now involved with motorists, with the digital billboards, and I think we want to heavily regulate those digital billboards and digital signs throughout the city as a part of this working group. And it takes away from the city's image and it detracts from community character. So.
Yeah, I agree. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And if I may speak from the chair, this is definitely something I'd be happy to be a part of and happy to meet with you on. I know I was a part of this several years ago when Councilor Hass started this, and as some of you mentioned, there's a moratorium currently for billboards, so there haven't been any in recent years since the moratorium passed. But the moratorium's purpose was so that we could look at this ordinance and tighten it up and tie up some loose ends to make sure that after it's over, we have all the tools that we need to make this right. I know that there are several that come to mind when I think about our city. The one on Revere Street and Broadway that Councilor Guanasso mentioned is one that stands out so strongly right now. I know you guys are familiar with several on Squire Road that are incredibly bright, and there are residential homes right across the way that have to look at these. Ward 6, if Councilor Patch was here, has a ton that are literally in people's yards. So I think it's definitely something we need to look at in the city and tighten up, and I'd be happy to be a part of that. At this time, I'll open it up to the beautification committee if you'd like to speak. Thank you.
My name is Ron Champeau from the Beautification Committee. And his partner, Carol Haney.
Okay. I'm amazed. It only took us 7 years.
7 years.
7 years to get to this point. But thank God we are at this point. And I really, truly appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this. And I really hope that Carol is a part of it too. She's well-versed and quite knowledgeable about this issue. I think, I agree 100% with Frank. We need a small group, 6, 7 people max, work on this, focus on it. I don't think it'll take that long. I mean, that makes us enough, we have enough knowledge to solve this. I think the one thing I would like to focus on is to develop a new paradigm to deal with billboards, and a new way to deal with signs in our city. We can do it. This isn't rocket science, and it's easily solvable. The number of billboards, it's obvious. We have to address the issue of what exists in our city. So I think, you know, I just hope that we can work together, solve this problem. I mean, with the administration, I don't know who the members of the committee are going to be, but would be more than willing to be of assistance and help in developing the new comprehensive billboard ordinance for the city. And it's a pleasure. This is a tremendous achievement.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and I agree with everything that Ron has said. And this is the second, as you know, moratorium. We've extended it. Actually, I think it's the third. But we would like to hopefully get this done before this moratorium expires. And I hope that everyone is open to new ideas of how to address this problem, because it is a real problem in our city.
I agree.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak? So perhaps we could take this opportunity in this time, since we have a good amount of time allotted to plan how we can arrange this. I know I'll volunteer myself, and Frank, I think you're being voluntold, but thank you for volunteering. Counselors?
Thank you, Councilor Janino. I recommend then you become the head of this subcommittee, subcommittee, and obviously I would be willing to be a participant as well. If I would suggest not filling it with councilors. I think the community input's important. So if Councilor Patch or Councilor Guanasso, or Councilor Novoselsky or McKenna, who probably have a little bit more highway business than me, or more billboards in their area than I would step back, but I'd be happy to help out in this plight as well.
Perfect. And what we can do, Councilor Keefe, is we can put, I think we have to be careful of how many counselors we have to put on the committee, because if it's over a certain number of voting members, then we have to make it a council subcommittee. But if, 2 or 3 counselors are on it, shouldn't be a problem at all. We can send out an email and open it up to everyone, figure out who to appoint. And then from that point on, maybe, I honestly think this is something we could accomplish within 2 or 3 meetings. I think that you guys have more education on this than anyone in the community, and you've been, again, working on it for close to 10 years, if not longer. So I think that a lot of it's already on paper, and it's just a matter of how we can finalize it, make it nice and neat, and really tighten up all the loose ends. Councilor Guanasso?
Madam Chairperson, I think the first order of a business, and just speaking off the record, and you can deal with it as you wish, the way we should attack this is first the zoning. Go and sit with Frank and go over each parcel of the zoning and see, because we know we can't prohibit it because they would take that to the courts and win. So we'll give them, like we did with medical marijuana, we give them the TED district, and okay, there's a little area there, and we cover the law by doing so. So, and I think this is the same approach we take to this. Frank alluded to the fact that we can't take down those that currently exist. But once that location is no longer in use, we should have a game plan in place that we do not replace that, and it doesn't go in another location. There's no trade-off with that. The billboard is eliminated, and that's it. And so wording to that effect that has to be outlined, drafted up here, given to the city solicitor before it comes to the committee of the council as a whole for a vote. And I think once you have that game plan in place with the background and the evidence and the expertise that the beautification committee will present, we're going to have a winning situation going on, and I think it's going to be beneficial to all of us. And I think finally we'll put grips onto this unsightly thing, because that billboard down there is absolutely driving me crazy. And I stared at it again this morning, looking at it and saying, how disgraceful that is, that exists there. And I might add, as a footnote, I gave it to inspectional services to find them, and they're going to do so. And he came and he saw it, and I said, this is unacceptable. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Counselor. So I think that we'll definitely have to send out an email, open it up to all counselors, and at least have them, present if they want to attend the meeting. We can utilize the council chambers as a meeting place for this. I think that would be perfectly appropriate. We can definitely ask the city solicitor if he can be present, as well as any members of the beautification committee. Do you guys have certain people appointed that you'd like to be on? Perfect, perfect. So then that would be 3 of us present, and then we can open up to counselors, and hopefully 2 or 3 counselors, which we can establish. And then, are there certain dates or days of the week that work best that we could establish this? All right, so we'll make a note of that, and perhaps do a weekday around 5 o'clock, so we can use the council chambers and televise it and open up to the public. And if there's anyone watching or that's at home, that's not at this meeting, that's interested in being a part of it, you can email myself or the city clerk to be involved. Our email addresses are all on the city's website, on the city council webpage, or any city councilor. You can reach out to your ward councilor and they can pass the information along, but if you reach out to myself or the clerk directly, that'll probably be the best way. And Madam Clerk, do you know what the time frame is for the moratorium?
6 months. I'll have to see the date. It was actually signed by the mayor, so it'll be 6 months from that.
Okay. It would be great if we could do this by the end of the year, if we could meet.
Excuse me, I didn't get what you say. When's the 6 months?
She has to look at what date it was 6 months from when the mayor signed it. I think best case scenario, if we could get this done by the end of the year, that would be fantastic. If we could do something before the last meeting of the year, so perhaps if we could schedule a meeting in October and then maybe 2 in November, and then try to vote on it.
Now, you're suggesting, if I may ask, that we hold it public, while the committee gets together, but the committee is public, the meeting?
No, we can just use the council chambers. But definitely, if there are people that have input, absolutely. I think it's definitely close to. Frank, do you have any?
Madam Chairperson, just a point of information.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All the meetings are public, so you would have to, you would be in violation of the open meeting law if you didn't make them public. So the public will be available to participate in any meeting that they decided to come to.
We were just talking about getting the committee, the small committee together to come up with the thing, and then, of course, when you bring it to the council,
Right.
everyone would know.
Yep.
Yeah, but we're talking about the original group.
Okay.
I totally agree with Frank. If you have too broad a group, that can be a problem. I mean, as we all know in committees. At the public meeting, of course, when we present the ideas of a smaller subgroup, then that would be definitely open to the public. But I agree with Frank. It should be like 6, 7 people, something like that. That's it. And then present those ideas to the committee here, the zoning committee.
Perfect.
Just a thought.
So I believe with the city solicitor, if we have the city solicitor as well as city planner, that's 4 of us, and that opens it up for a counselor and then anyone else in the beautification committee, or maybe a representative from the mayor's office if someone's interested in being a part of this. And then we can, again, I'd like to ideally schedule something by the end of this month, and then hopefully 2 in November, so we can get it finalized before the end of the year, because you guys have waited long enough to see something happen with this. So I'd really like to see it happen. I think the best way to do this is we'll get an email chain going. We'll get everyone's email address, plan for the first meeting, and then go from there. Does anyone else? Yes. Yep, I can coordinate that. It's up to you. I'll volunteer unless you would like to. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, for people that can't hear against the mic, what we can do is we'll work out the details of the subcommittee. So the city clerk just informed me that the moratorium is over next month. So hopefully we can get a move on it by next month before the moratorium's over, because again, I believe that Councilor Hass's initial wish was to get this moratorium as a time frame to work on this. So I think that would be sooner rather than later, so we can get that email sent out. I mean, we still have a good amount of time before the council meeting tonight, establish a date, and go from there. Anyone else have any questions? Perfect. This concludes the zoning committee, and this will be reported out to the committee of the whole this evening. All in favor? All opposed?
Good evening. Call to order the meeting of Monday, October 16th, 2017. We'll all rise and salute the flag.
Mr. Vice President? Oh, I'm sorry.
Roll call of the members. Councilor Janino?
Here.
Here. Councilor Guanasso?
Here.
Here. Councilor McKenna? Here. Councilor Morbido? Here. Councilor Novoselsky? Here. Councilor Patch?
Here.
Here. Councilor Powers? Here. Councilor Rotundo? Here. Councilor Zambudo is absent. And Council Vice President Keefe?
Here.
Here. Quorum is present.
Mr. Vice President, a point of personal privilege, please.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Tonight, I would like to start off by a little remembrance of Christy Janino. I'm wearing a pin here that the Italian American flag that Christy gave me many years ago. He always asked me, "You still got my pen?" But other than that, this past week, as you know, the city of Revere lost one of its favorite sons, and the Janino family lost their family patriarch. Former longtime local businessman and retired 32-year veteran of the Revere Fire Department, Christy Janino, who lost his courageous battle October 6th. So at this time, I ask that we gather in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Councilor Powers?
Thank you, Mr. President. I also would like the council and the audience to indulge in a moment of silence with respect to Roger Naples, who passed away this weekend. Roger was probably a 40-year employee of the city of Revere. Was very much involved with the youth of our city, whether it was basketball, baseball, or softball, or whatever it was. I had the pleasure of working with Roger for 23 years, and I don't think you would find a finer gentleman in the city of Revere, or a person with a stronger interest in the youth of our city. And so I would like to ask that we all stand in a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. If I may also speak from the chair, not to overshadow the city's great losses over the last week. My heartfelt sympathy is to the Janino family and to the Napolitano family, Roger Naples family. Most recently, we did pass a motion approving for special legislature to go through to present Roger with a plaque at the MDC rink, or the DCR rink. And I'm happy to say that through the help of Speaker DeLeo's office and Representative Vincent's office, it's moved along very quickly, and that plaque in his honor should be finalized hopefully before the end of the year. We were hoping to get it done while Roger was still with us, but I know that on his last few days, his close friends were able to tell him that was going through, and it brought a smile to his face. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President,
Councilor.
not to overshadow what you've done, and I thank you for that, because Roger and I were good friends, but I just left the wake, and I talked to the family, and they would like to see one at the stadium also. So I would, hope that we can get the DPW or Parks and Rec to put something underneath the window, outside the booth, underneath the window that he broadcast from when he did the PA at the stadium. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Approval of the journal of the regular meeting of October 2nd, 2017. The joint utility company meeting will now meet.
Thank you, councilors, and it's a pleasure to be back. It's been some time, and we appreciate that you've given us that time. Currently, we have a grand total of 135 poles in the community. We're coordinating efforts to remove as many as we can. Just speaking with Comcast, Tim, and understanding the Park Avenue issue, at least along that school front. We're looking to get those coordinated and moved as quickly as possible. Those would be the next area of priority for Verizon and removal. So with that, I open it up to my colleagues.
Thank you, Stan. For the record, Tim Kelly, Comcast Government Affairs. Good to be here with you this evening. I want to introduce, it's bittersweet. So I'm going to stay with Comcast, but I'm moving on to a different role. So I have my colleague here, Angela Holm, from the city of Boston, Brighton. She's tough, but I think this body will definitely give her, her due when it comes to the double poles. But I am confident that she's going to be able to fill my role, probably exceed what I've done, an upgrade, as people say internally. So I just wanted to introduce Angela to this body and to say thank you, honestly, for, I know we've been in front of you many times, but it's always been civil, respectful, and, for that, I'm quite thankful. So thank you.
Just like to say hello to you all, and I look forward to working with you.
Dan Cameron with National Grid, and good to be back as well. And looking at the report, obviously, we have some work to do. A lot of poles have been removed, but a fair amount of them now are waiting for our transfers, and we'll be moving on getting those transfers done as well.
Okay, councilors wishing to speak. Councilor Guanasso.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Dan for the speedy work that we did at the corner store on Revere Street.
Yes.
We certainly, Fiore's Market was without power. Dan came to the rescue. We pleaded with you, and now we have full cooperation and we have full power. And I want to thank you and National Grid for the great effort that you've done. Having said that, now comes a slam. Oxford Park, and I mentioned this a year and a half to 2 years ago in reference to I worked feverishly to get that repaved. We had it repaved. National Grid came in and did the entire length of roadway work. And what they've done, they left me with a giant divot, the whole length of the entire Oxford Park. And to me, that is really, Dan, that's quite unacceptable, because that's not the condition that was given when they dug it up. And we worked so hard to get that in the first place. And the funds for repaving of streets and sidewalks are so limited that when we get one, and then within months, a utility company comes in and destroys it, it really is harmful to the community. And personally, I feel affronted by it because I worked so hard to get that done. So, again, in spirit of cooperation, can you go visit Oxford Park? You'll see it. It's the whole entire length of the street. And we've done yeoman's work to keep that park up. We have a beautiful beautification in the front with flowers, and we keep the park itself kept well. But traversing it now is really a problem. And now we're coming across the months of plowing, and it's even going to get worse. Okay. So that's one of the major names. I will put that before double poles at this particular time, if I can get that sort of cooperation from
Okay.
you. That would be a movement in the right direction at this time.
So this was a brand-new street that we
It was a
wouldn't-
brand-new
yeah, okay.
street a year ago, and now it looks like it needs repair again,
Okay.
and it's all, because I said this a year and a half ago. If you do it right, and please fill it right, and they didn't do that.
Okay.
And I was on it then, and I'm on it now, and I just find it very painful to see it as it exists today. Again, I look forward to your help.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Dan, we have 2 poles on Winthrop Ave. One, I think we've talked about it, it's 740 Winthrop Ave. I think it's either 75 or 76 pole number.
Yeah,
It has
that's us.
cement around it. I think we've talked about this a couple of times, and the cement is still not removed, and it's on the sidewalk, and it's on a crosswalk on a corner. So I don't know why this hasn't been removed, the cement, but it's around the pole, and it's a double pole. It's right on the corner. And then we got a new double pole, which I thought we were trying to get rid of double poles. And that's in 738 Winthrop Ave. We got a brand-new double pole. And I was just wondering why that was going on. 'Cause
As far as the condition of the base of the pole, I think we may have mentioned at our last meeting, but there's been a change between National Grid and Verizon where we used to sort of split the responsibility as to who would set poles and who would remove them.
Okay.
Now, National Grid is going to set all poles in every community, and Verizon will be removing all poles once everyone has transferred off. I mean, this one here, I mean, it may have been set by Verizon, but I think in the spirit of not going back, we'll take care of this, because under the old rules, it would have been Verizon, because they would have set the old.
So you'll remove the cement?
Yeah, we will, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
So I just want to let you know that going forward, it's all National Grid.
And why, if we're starting to get, trying to get rid of the double poles, why was there a new one put up?
I'm not sure, I mean, it
2
could be
months ago.
the age of the pole, could have been, maybe it was hit, you know, there's several reasons why we need to set a new pole.
Okay.
But,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you. Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I have 3 matters that I would like to discuss. The first one is 71 Milano Ave, pole number 3. I have an email here that I sent out on May 1st, asking Dan to see who was next up to disconnect the pole at 71 Milano Ave, pole number 3. Since that time, everything has been removed, I believe, from the old pole.
Yeah, Stan just mentioned that to me. Everyone's off of it, apparently. We just need to get it out of the system, which.
Yeah, it's
and
on
then-
blocks. It's,
Yeah.
I've had several discussions with Stan.
Yeah.
I just want the people, residents of Milano Ave to know that it's been a continual
Yeah.
conversation between you and Verizon. It's just, I wish it'd be a little, it could happen a little quicker.
Yeah, well, I believe we need to remove that from the system, which we'll do tomorrow. That'll enable the schedule of Verizon to go out and remove it. We'll take care of it.
Okay, but just check it out first.
Yep.
Okay. The second one, the other pole is, in my experience, what little experience I do have, but I really think it's a public safety issue. It's pole 3477 next to 81 Sergeant Street. It's down by the doggy park.
Yeah, the one I looked at the other day.
Actually, you were down there I believe last week.
Right.
And I was there today with the superintendent of the DPW, Donnie Goodwin, because that's the problem, the electrical problem there, which is to me, is unsafe. I think you both have to work together to correct this problem. Am I right on this, or?
Yeah, we do, because I think I was like I was explaining to you, it's the wire coming out of that pipe on the pole is actually owned by the city.
Yeah.
So we have to transfer everything from the old pole to the new pole and work with the city and get that slack taken out of that wire.
Right, well, Dan, also, I mean, it's been months. I mean, I believe, I don't know if it was an accident or the pole split, but it was an emergency that you had to put that pole there. But you still have the transformer on the old pole. I mean, I can't see why it couldn't have, at least you have to start the ball going. So I don't understand why it's taken so long just to move the transformer and then let everybody else remove their stuff.
It's just a matter of, I mean, it's just been extremely busy, but we'll get it taken care of. Yeah, I know.
I believe that, in the wintertime, and I'll even give you an excuse on the maybe some crews you had to send on hurricane to different states. But the spring and summer, that's the time isn't that the time to really go out and move this stuff?
It is, but like I said, we've been hit with a lot of customer work too. There's a lot of construction going on, but we'll take care of it.
Like I say, I really do believe it's a public safety, and I think I actually even got an email here from Stan, Councilor Patch. There are two low wires coming off the pole in front of House 81. One is electrical service, the other was cable. Cable went right down and fixed. When I contact the both of you, cable went right down and fixed it, their wire. But I'm more nervous about the electric wire. And that was June 1st. So, it's got to. We get, like I say, it could be a public safety problem there. One other quick one on Michael Road. Where do we stand there? I believe it's the only one you have on Michael Road. Remember we had the problem with, was some kind of other outfit that had a wire there?
Yeah. Dan just pointed it out to me. It is another entity. I'll track through the data system who it is and give you the contact for it.
Well, that's not the same data company that we had. I thought we had that removed.
No, that was a different location and a different company.
No, it's the same location. It's the same location.
I don't believe so. If it is, I'll look at it and I'll find out who the contact is, and I'll make that contact.
Because they moved the one you only got one double pole there.
Okay.
So are you saying there's two other?
No.
Companies?
I'm sorry. This is something that we had discussed more than a year ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why the neighbors are getting a little upset.
And that's the name I had given to you. They were contacted and told to move, and apparently they have. I
emailed the company that you gave me.
Right.
And he emailed, I believe, the both of us and told us that it was
saw
removed.
Okay. Well, I'll send a crew out to take a look at that. I think we're next, if I'm not mistaken.
I appreciate it if you do that.
Okay.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you, Mr.
Council Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I normally would be questioning several different issues, but Dan Cameron has been working with me on many of those issues, and I would like to publicly thank you tonight, Dan, for the quick response to getting that fellow down to 1069 North Shore Road, not once but twice, and the letter I received from you the other day, which will allow us to move ahead, hopefully within the next week, on the demolition of that blighted property on 1069 North Shore Road. And I certainly want to thank you for your help. I'd be often up here being critical if something wasn't done, but you worked very fast on this, and I want to thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Vice President. Gentlemen and lady, congratulations, welcome, congratulations to you, see you later. Anyway, I guess I want to go over a few on the existing list that I think are simple issues. You have Damon Street, D-A-M-O-N, on there at pole 644. Right, okay, that pole was all removed, it's gone, and Damon Street is not there, is not the right street, it was actually Dahone Street. So that was a duplicate of that, that shouldn't be on your list. So whoever removes them from the new G, take them off. And the next item is Mahant Ave, pole 3921. It shows the next in line was National Grid, and they did their work about 6 months ago, so whoever has to post that and get the next in line to do it, because RFD was next, and they actually did their part already, despite, and then that's the one I spoke to you about, Tim, that when I looked at it, National Grid hadn't gone into the system and knocked it out, and Revere tried to go in to knock it out, but they couldn't because National Grid was already on there. Now, since National Grid has now taken down poles,
No.
putting them in?
We're installing, Verizon is removing.
Oh, good, well, I'll still,
When everyone's transferred.
okay, well, I'll go after you again on Revere Beach Parkway, pole number 48, across from the Sunoco station. We're talking 7 years now that this, I'll call it a naked pole. It's been, everything's been removed from that for years.
You said pole 48, right?
48, yeah.
That looks like, Counselor, that looks like it's ours.
Whomever, just take it down. Get rid of it. All the wires are off. They've been off from, like I said, for many, many years.
And that's the only one on Revere Beach Parkway.
That
That is a
yes,
double
out of
pole.
all those wooden poles,
All
yes.
right.
It's right across from the Sunoco station at the crosswalk. And then, Deanne, on you, on my light upgrade on Ocean Avenue at those crosswalks. I know folks are still asking for that.
And the one down by Dunkin' Donuts as well, right?
The one by Dunkin',
You
oh,
want-
yes.
you want a
that-
400 there
Yeah,
instead of-
to upgrade that light, right. Because that's not even on this list, because it's not a double pole, it's just something that we wanted originally. I have Florence Ave, poles 719, it's a Verizon issue. That's back February of 2016.
Okay.
And then on National Grid, I got Clark Road, Campbell Ave, and Hillside Ave that have been since February and March of 2016. Campbell, Clark, and Hillside. And the other two I have are Revere Fire, and I'll work with them on that, on those two.
If I could, Counselor, in talking to Tim on Park Avenue, of course, there are about 10, I think 10 that are in Comcast bond court. What I'd like to do is be able to get those into our court so that we can come in and get all the ones that are in our bond court combined, so that we're not coming back twice. And Tim tells me that he can do this in relatively short fashion so that we can try to get these addressed
What's your
before the
definition of
holidays.
short fashion?
I'm hopeful
Before the winter?
Yeah, before the holidays.
Which holiday? You
Yes.
say Halloween, it's next week, I'll accept that, thank you very much.
It's not a Halloween for me. I live in Salem.
All right, you know,
It just makes it
Thanksgiving,
easier.
Thanksgiving,
That's what I would shoot
is
for.
that more reasonable?
That's what I would shoot for, and at least it would give us in excess of 24 to come in and knock them all out.
Okay, you know, I'll accept that, but, you know, come December, first week in December, and you're here. The wrath.
No, I understand that, and I can't make a commitment in terms of absolute dates, and we all know that, but, you know, I think it makes it a lot easier to deploy in a way that gets our people in for an extended period of time rather than, you know, a day at a time and doing 2 or 3. Let's try to knock them all out, and that includes Councilor Patch's poll, too.
Can live with that. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thanks, gentlemen,
Councilor
lady.
Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Welcome back to all my friends here. First of all, let me congratulate Tim on his promotion and congratulate you on coming to Revere. Unfortunately, you've got some big shoes to fill, because I have him up on a pedestal because of the way he responds to anything I've ever given him, right there, right away. So you've got big shoes to fill, and again, I wish you well. You're a professional, you've always been a professional, and I know that's why they're promoting you. So good for them, and good for you to come here to this stepping stone to another big promotion later down the road, if you do what he does. Listen, I don't have, I've been here long enough to know when we didn't have this group and we weren't getting this good stuff done. And this has been such a wonderful collaborative effort that we finally have a way to get down these double poles and we actually make progress on it. So I'm thrilled with it. I know it's not perfect, but we're certainly a lot better than we were even a dozen years ago. So I thank you all for your efforts, and you're all true professionals. Dan, you're always there whenever I call you, and sometimes they're not easy tasks, but you step up to the plate. And Stan, you know, you're obviously a professional, and Verizon thinks very highly of you, as I do. So thank you all. I know this sounds like a love fest, but it's, you know, I remember when we used to bang our heads against the wall to try to get some of this stuff done that's done on a regular basis now. It's good to see. Thank you all for your efforts.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rotundo?
Thank you. Good evening, all. A couple of questions. Perhaps you can help me understand this a little bit better. We have 135 double poles currently. Is that true?
That's correct.
Do we have a stratification as to the time that they've been double poles? How many years out?
That's in the list and on the printout that I sent to the clerk.
Unfortunately, I don't have it, so.
Okay,
if you
I
could,
can resend it to you, and it gives the.
How many of them are greater than a year old is my question.
I would say a great number of them.
So greater than 2/3?
I would say yes to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Verizon is the group that's removing them, and then obviously National Grid will be installing new poles, is that correct?
Yeah, the way that the system ordinarily used to work in the past, we had the set here, and we would set the poles, and then at the end, because they were cut at the bottom, we would take the poles. So in order to simplify things throughout the working areas of both Grid and Verizon, the companies have come to an agreement whereby Grid would set the poles and we would take the poles once everybody was transferred. It just simplified things.
So I'm not a little bit nicer than my colleagues here. I'm a different type of guy. I believe in results. You've got 3 companies here that have assets well over $1 trillion with well over 100,000 employees. We're a small city. You have 135 poles here, and I'd like to know in what time frame you'd be able to get rid of all of them, please.
I couldn't begin to give you an estimate.
6 months?
It all depends on how transfers work.
All right, 'cause my understanding
And I will tell you,
is-
Counselor, that you'll never get to zero. It's just.
It's an ongoing process, I get that.
Correct.
But, reading Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 164, Section 34B, it requires you to do this within a certain time frame. In fact, the time frame is a year. And then it gives you stipulations based upon who uses. Okay. So, what can you tell me in relative terms that you can accomplish within 6 months?
Well, I think, as I stated in my opening statement, I guess it would be at least 2/3 of the 135 are in our court.
Can you get 50 done within 6 months?
I would say that's reasonable, yeah. But I'd like to just take a step back, because something is part of this new process that will help is that in the communities where we always set the poles, we set it, we transfer it at the same time. In communities where Verizon sets the poles, the transfer has to be scheduled. So we think it's going to work better in the future. We set a new
Understood.
pole, we transfer right away. Gets the process going much quicker.
Would
So
it be unreasonable to request that in 6 months you come back before us to see if you reach that benchmark of 50?
I think that's achievable. I can't guarantee it, but I think we can head in that direction, yes.
Thank you kindly.
Yep.
Councilor Guanasso, one more time.
I have one question for Dan. 49 Washington Street, they have a light in front of their home that goes off and on, and that's a very dimly lit area adjacent to the Revere School, and many of the children in the area frequent that location.
I think did I just get an email on that today? I think
You
I
might
did.
have,
Yeah.
but I'm just
From
following
Alex,
up. It's
okay.
49 Washington Street.
Okay.
It goes on and goes off.
Yep. We just replaced it. The starter is gone in the bulb.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councilor Morabito.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Welcome, Angela. Thanks for your years of service working with us. Congratulations. I have two questions. One is on a poll that Arthur Guanasso mentioned, and I did back in April of 2015. We brought it up a few times. It's on poll 3286 on American Legion Highway. There used to be a light pole at the top.
There used to be a light there, and there's no more light?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Like, I think at the time of when we had the tornado, at the time of the tornado, that's when the pole was broken, and they never they replaced the pole, but without the light.
Yeah, okay. All right. We'll check that tomorrow. I mean, as long as it's in the billing register, we'll take
Because it's
care of
an
it.
area that is traversed frequently by pedestrians. Also, there's...
Council, where approximately is that on, give me a landmark where that is?
It's at the corner of Stanton and American Legion.
Okay, thank you.
Also, currently, I know National Grid is doing work ahead of the MassDOT Safe Routes to School program on North Shore Road, and it's ending at Cove Street. I was told that it's going to last about 2 months, so October 17th is the 2-month date. Is it going to extend longer for the first phase, or should we assume that it's going to be complete by October 17th?
Let me find that. I remember the emails on that. Let me find out the schedule and see when we're going to, and I can get back to you on that.
Okay, and thank you for quickly responding to me.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep.
Councilor. And Councilor Pash.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I did have a couple that I forgot to mention. Dan, if you remember, I called you at the corner of Keeney Street and Squire Road. Doughboy uniform, police supplies moved into there, the corner. And there was no light on the pole. This has been a couple of months too.
Did you want one there? I think those-
The problem is, every last pole on Squire Road with all those side streets like the Newman, Larkin, they all have a pole. And if you go down Keeney at nighttime, it's very dark. Now that he keeps maybe some late hours, it's very dark there.
Okay.
And we spoke, you were gonna put a work order in, and eventually we talked again, and you know the owner, Paul Simeone, that you did some, we had some tragedy in the city or something that you rode with him.
Yeah.
You said that you were gonna work with him to get it done.
Yeah. I thought there was a light already. I'll have to look into it, but I thought.
No, the very last, it's the very last pole on Keeney.
Yeah.
And if you notice, every street that comes down from Alden Street into Squire, the last pole always has a light. That's the
Okay.
only street that does not. And if he desperately needs a light there.
Okay. Well, if we have your approval, we can the city's approval, we can do that. You know. So.
Is that what?
Yeah.
An upgrade?
Yeah. If there's no light there.
Yeah.
And there never was, and we just need the city's approval, and we can add it to the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, on the pole between 49 and 51 Roland Ave, that's the last one that I believe that we went through 311 and you responded quickly to fix it. That was like the second time you fixed it.
Yeah.
And now it's out again, so
Okay.
it needs, it must need a whole new
Yeah, probably needs a new
structure.
fixture. Council, what was it, 49 to 51?
Roland.
Roland, okay.
Road.
Okay.
And also, thank you. And Tim, I forgot no, you, I want to congratulate, no, all I want to do is congratulate you.
Thank you.
And thank you for, it's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you,
And good luck in the future.
Thank you.
And Angela, don't leave without leaving your card. Please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
And actually, it looks like someone in the audience wanted to have something to say.
Name and address for the record, Eric Lampedecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. I just wanted to share with you guys a photo from Agawam Street. I did put a ticket in with the city's 311 services. I was informed that they did reach out to you guys. There's some low-hanging power lines and children in the area. I'd just like to get those tightened up. I don't know if that's Verizon or National Grid or who can help with that.
Yeah, that would be ours up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're probably underneath, I'm guessing.
So-
The whole thing's.
Yeah, it's all sagging down, as you can see. That's 7 Agawam Street. The poles, I believe, are 2525 and 745. So, thank you, guys.
Thank you. We can give you that information as well. And just to wrap this up, I think that you preempted my my Park Ave concerns, and they've been some concerns, so I appreciate you. It looks like you're going to address those. I'm keeping the calendar circled right around Thanksgiving, and we hope to have the Park Ave poles taken care of. I'm not sure if that includes the mini substation that's outside of the school, if that's going to end up being relocated. I'm not. Can you answer that for me?
I know that's a separate issue, not involved with double poles, and it does involve both our companies.
Thank you. And so the poles on the stadium side of Park Ave, they will be taken out, right?
Anything that's listed as a double pole in this report will be taken out as soon as, I think there's only one that has grid on it.
Yeah, there's one with the service to the stadium. It's an underground service that comes off the pole, and it'll obviously be very costly to move that across the street. So I think the decision was to leave that pole. That's down the end near the stadium. You know, so.
Okay, thank you. And once again, congratulations, Tim and Angela. It looks like you drew the short straw. Good luck. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the zoning subcommittee report.
Councilor Janino, would you like to give us an update on the zoning subcommittee?
The zoning subcommittee met earlier this evening. Councilors Keefe, McKenna, and Councilor Guanasso were present for this meeting. And we met with members of the beautification committee to discuss amendments to zoning ordinance relative to billboards. So this is something that there's currently a moratorium against billboards in our city that the late Council President Haas put forward, and this is something that he worked diligently on during his time on the council, so we're trying to continue that legacy and that wish of Councilor Haas. So we met today with the beautification committee to discuss these billboards and possible ordinances and how to get a committee started to take care of this. The mayor signed the moratorium in September, so we have 6 months from that date to work on this and get some revisions to our current ordinances moving forward within that time frame, and that is our goal. So we've established a committee, and we're going to meet several times to review all the different billboards in the city and what ordinances we can do to tighten any loose ends. It was a very productive meeting, and I thank everyone for attending.
Thank you, Councilor.
On to motions. Council Order 17-366, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo, that the mayor request the police department to adopt a policy in which the department notifies abutting residences living within 300 meters of a level 3 sex offender. A photo, address, and the crime committed should be included on the notice. Further, that this notice be mailed annually.
Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. Unfortunately, the ACLU had taken the city to court regarding not allowing sex offenders to live near a school, playground, etc., which, call me stupid, but it's crazy that you would allow a pedophile to live where children congregate, considering that they're high risk of recidivism. At the very least, we can circumvent that law legally and let the people who live within the area know where these people live. And it's within our right, and as far as I'm concerned, it's our duty. They do this in several states. It's passed the muster at the Supreme Court, and this is a notification process, and I think we have a right to do it, and I think we should.
Any other councilors wishing to speak? No? I appreciate, oh, we have a member of the audience.
Good evening, Council. Anthony Cogliandro, 105 Newman Street. Councilor Rotundo, is it possible to add level 2 sex offenders to that list as well?
I think we would have to give that to the city solicitor and ask him for an opinion on that, but I think that would be worthwhile.
Absolutely, because they show up in public searches. You can't publicly search level 1s, and it's based on the chance they'll reoffend as well.
Someone urinating out in the middle of the street is considered a level 1 sex offender, so clearly that's not someone that I would deem an issue, but someone that has a record of raping a child or molesting a child, clearly that would be the case. And kind of odd that recently down on Shirley Avenue there were people out there protesting about being evicted when one of the people that were there was a level 3 sex offender, and I was just appalled at it. And then to be told by the homeowner, by the property owner, that the city of Revere actually drops children off in front of that particular house, I was floored. And just literally notified of it today, so I plan on bringing that up with the superintendent via email and asking if they stop dropping that bus off there if they could. But there's got to be greater scrutiny here. Thank you.
I hope it goes through. The more notification, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I couldn't agree with you more, and I'd be in full support of this. Motion to approve.
Council Order 17-367, motion presented by Councilor McKenna, that the mayor request the DCR to provide an emergency person on duty to open the Beechmont pump station to extract rainwater from the lower end of Beechmont when inclement weather is approaching. Due to the extremely heavy rainfall on September 30th, streets were flooded, causing houses to flood. It took DCR over 4 hours to open the pumps.
Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. So on September 30th, and I know it wasn't predicted, but we had 3 inches of rain in 1 hour. And what happened is Beechmont is lower than sea level, so flooding was terrible. And many of the houses got flooded because the pumping station took 4 hours. DCR took 4 hours to open the pumping station to withdraw the water. So what I'm asking is if we do know the prediction of the weather that's going to happen, that we have an emergency person go down there before this weather happens and make sure that these pumping stations are open so we won't have this problem occur again. Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel. Any other counsels wishing to speak? Motion to approve?
Council Order 17-368, motion presented by Councilor Novoselsky, that the mayor request the MBTA to dredge the county ditch on their Blue Line property from Shirley Avenue to the Route 145 overpass bridge behind the Garfield School. This motion should also be sent to our state delegation for their assistance.
Council Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. This is an ongoing issue with the county ditch along the Blue Line because they will not allow Northeast Mosquito Control nor any city of employees to go on the track side of the fence. So we have to go through delegation because the T isn't very cooperative. It's been 8 years since the last time that was dredged out. And the former manager, Daley, who eventually became the Transportation Commissioner Secretary, helped us out back then. But now it's time to do it again, and, you know, as Councilor McKenna said, when we had all that rain on the 30th, it couldn't go anywhere. You know, all the outfalls were blocked with debris, and nobody can do anything about it. If anybody goes behind the Garfield School, they'll see a cave-in, literally a cave-in, right by the entrance to the garage. And that's all because of the blockage underneath the pedestrian crossover. And the T wouldn't clean it out for us, and now the line is collapsed, and it's going to cost us a lot of extra money to replace that drainage line. So hopefully state delegation, and they've been very helpful in the past working with the T, and I hope they can make it happen again and sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Any other councils wishing to speak? Motion to approve?
Council Order 17-369, motion presented by Councilor Novoselsky, that the mayor request the Revere DPW to remove the newsracks from the Shirley Avenue sidewalks at the entrance and exit of the Revere Beach MBTA station.
Council Novoselsky.
I think it's self-explanatory.
Motion to approve?
Council Order 17-370, motion presented by Councilor Novoselsky, that the mayor request the Traffic Commission to extend the residential permit parking zone on Garfield Ave from Dick Street to Blake Street, both sides from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., Monday through Friday, except holidays.
Council Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Vice President, I received several calls from the neighbors between Dick Street and Blake, and it seems though now that the folks using the MBTA Blue Line are extending their walks from the Garfield School all the way down to the T. And normally it's 7 a.m. to 12, but in this case what I'm doing is I'm working with the school, and this allows the parents to go down and drop the kids off, pick them up for their lunch, you know, the midterm pickup for the younger kids, and not get tagged for permit parking. So this will hopefully come up at the next Traffic Commission meeting and set up for a public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Any other councils wishing to speak? Motion to approve.
Council Order 17-371, motion presented by Councilor Novoselsky, that the mayor request the DPW to install a veteran memorial sign for Robert Finestone at 207 Shirley Avenue between the Bagel Bin and 4 Orr Square.
Council, your fourth motion? You only spoke on 2, though, so it's okay.
No, you can speak on 3.
Correct.
And I've only spoken on 2.
Correct.
So this is my
Just
third
making
one,
sure. I
Counselor,
didn't
in
know if
case
you
you
snuck
couldn't
another one
count.
in there.
In case you couldn't count.
I just don't think I wasn't counting.
Yeah, I know you were. Mr. Vice President, Bobby Feinstone passed away in August. And believe it or not, before he passed, and actually several years before he passed, he said, Ira, if I get anything out of this city, I want a memorial sign in front of the bagel bin. So the least I can do is ask for it and have the city put it up, and the family's looking forward to it, and I'm sure they'll have a nice party at the bagel bin when the event happens. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Any councilors wishing to speak? Motion to approve.
Council Order 17-372, motion presented by Councilor Keefe, that the mayor request the school department to review the feasibility of adding a crossing guard at the school bus stop on the corner of Dale Street and Park Avenue.
Any councilors? Permission to speak from the chair? Thank you. I'll make it brief, but as you know, this area has a notorious island, and it's obviously Park Ave is a very busy street. I've been trying to do everything I could to get different traffic signals or some sort of blinking speed limits, and of course the raised crosswalks that I've been asking for a few years just don't seem to be getting that through. So I think at the least during school hours, there's a bus stop drop off right at that Dale Street and Park Ave intersection. A lot of kids get off the bus and not a lot of caution is taken. They run in front of the bus sometimes, even though when that stop sign is stuck out. It's a really dangerous area. I'd like to see if we can spend a few dollars to have a crossing guard there 5 days a week during school hours. I think it would be worthwhile for the protection of the children. But Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with this motion wholeheartedly. That is a terrible area. I think that there should be something done to remove that island or restructure that. That thing is a disaster waiting to happen. It's really a dangerous area. So I don't know what somebody should look at the feasibility of altering that situation there. I don't know who designed that, but whoever, they were on some kind of a substance, I believe. It's very dangerous.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Gonasso.
Through the campaign season, you hold signs in the morning, and you see the value of the crossing guards at each location. Certainly, it's a job well intended, and school children are protected by the type of work they do and perform. It's amazing, and any additional personnel that we can add on to alleviate the safety factor for our children is well deserved, and I think this is well deserved, and I think this is a very needed area. But again, they're really heroes going out there every day throughout the elements and working. And the way they cross the children and they have conversations with them, they bring the spirit of goodwill already to the child before they even reach the front door of the school. So this is a good motion, and I applaud all the crossing guards throughout the city.
Thank you, Councilor. And in reference to Councilor Zambudo's remarks, I do think the island is a good idea. I do believe the design could have been better implemented, and we all have approved to have it relooked at, but unfortunately it hasn't been changed. But we'll keep fighting that fight. But certainly in the meantime, if we can get some crossing guards or some even if we have to have a police officer there during school drop off and pickup, it's worth it. We want to make sure that we're protecting the kids getting off that bus. So, thank you. Motion to approve.
Council Order 17-373, motion presented by Councilor Janino, that the mayor request the DPW to install a veteran memorial pole in honor of U.S. Army veteran Christy Janino at the corner of Malden and Sigourney Streets next to his father's memorial pole.
Councilor Janino.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I can honestly say this is the most difficult motion I've ever had to speak on since I've been up here, but definitely something that I'm proud to be able to do. My grandfather was a proud veteran of the United States Army. He also was proud to serve the city of Revere for over 31 years in the Revere Fire Department, and he spent his entire life on that block. He was born in a house in the corner of Augusta Street and Malden Street, and lived for his entire life on the corner of Sigourney Street and Malden Street and ran the business between Sigourney, Malden, and Derby Road. So it's pretty remarkable to spend your entire life on such a small piece of land, but it was his, and he was very proud of it, and I think it'd be very fitting to put that near his father's, and I look forward to working on this with Councilor Novoselsky and his committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any councilors wishing to speak? Great motion. Motion to approve.
Late motion presented by Councilor Powers that the mayor request Mass Highway to repair the damaged guardrails at the intersection of North Shore Road and Oak Island Street and North Shore Road and Mills Ave. This was submitted to Mass Highway several months ago, and it still remains unaddressed. The guardrails in their present condition are an eyesore and, more importantly, a danger to the motoring public.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was a motion that I submitted several months ago, and frankly, I'm appalled that the Commonwealth Department of Transportation hasn't moved in and taken corrective action. I mean, I can understand perhaps before the fiscal year, but they've got a brand-new budget. There should be no problem. They're terrible looking. They send a bad message to people passing through our community, number one. And more importantly, they're in the present condition, they serve no purpose. They're a danger to the motoring public that use 1A North Shore Road periodically. And I would hope that the Department of Transportation would move on this very quickly to correct not only that, but any other guardrails that may be on the list throughout the city. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Any councilors wishing to speak? Someone in the audience.
Eric Lampadecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. This is a great motion. I'd also just like to ask that you also add the intersection of John Avenue and North Shore Road. There was a very bad car accident this weekend, and it's pretty much twisted metal down there. The sidewalk is untraversable, and it's actually roped off with caution tape at this time. So I'd like that to be added to this motion, please. Thank you.
That was this weekend, the accident? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
This
so
weekend.
it's not one that's been there for a while. That's good. I would hope that we can add this to the motion and get some positive action from Mass Department of Transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Ashley will add that, Madam Clerk. And no further business. Motion to approve. In motion to adjourn, our next scheduled meeting will be on October 23rd.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir. Councilor Rotundo?
I thought we were going to have an executive session regarding the issue of the question and answers from the mayor regarding the assessment center.
I too we have not received communication back that they've scheduled that. I think that the mayor's office would be seeking
Yeah, I
to.
mean, with all due respect to the mayor, I mean, it's a pretty simple thing. All he has to do is photocopy the questions, redact the thing that he doesn't want us to have, and hand it to us. Takes 2 seconds.
I would agree. It would
And
be
it's been now 2 weeks, and I wonder why, after this council's asked this. So I would like, this body to do this. Why are we waiting for this information? We've waited now for almost, 3 months?
Well, Councilor Rotundo, if it gives you any hope, I will request right after this meeting, the mayor's office again to open up for executive session so the next.
And I don't want a version of it. I want the actual questionnaire that was used with the answers and the names redacted, and it can be presented to the council in executive session like we spoke about. I don't need Ruben, Cantor, or anybody else calling me saying, about the questions being a version or what have you. I want the actual document that was submitted to the people to be actually utilized, and that they put their answers on. They can redact the answers, they can redact the name. I want the questions. I don't want a third party, I don't want a second party, I want the first product.
Sounds good. I'll ask for a formal response before the next meeting, Councilor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn, and our next meeting will be October 23rd, 2017. Have a great night.